Welcome back to the Shabbos Treasures series. I'm Gila Ross, host of the Power Up podcast, and I'm here together with my co-host,
Rabbi Samuel Ross, and we are delighted to be able to share a weekly idea that you can take into your Shabbos and upgrade and beautify immediately. Enjoy. We've been looking the last couple of weeks about, we've been doing cooking, and in particular things like returning or putting food on the pot that's on the flame or on the hot plate that's already been cooked. Or last week we did the blech, which is this sheet of metal that's over the fire. And we're going to have one more part on that. And then next week's going to be a bit of a different. So let me start with the following question. Is it okay a tray of cold roast chicken on the blech to reheat it? Again, a blech is this sheet of metal which is on the fire. What would you think about putting a tray of cold roast chicken on the blech to reheat? What do you think based on anything we've learned so far?
It should be fine because the blech will make sure it doesn't cook and it only gets heated to a certain temperature.
Okay, so the first suggestion from Darren is it's perhaps going to be okay. Although I've got to say, Darren, when you got a blech as opposed to a hot plate, it probably does get pretty hot. I'm picturing, that gas flame that Jeremy was talking about, under it, and it probably gets pretty hot.
I'm going to say no.
Whoa! Just to be argumentative.
Be contradictory in Maddie's form.
It's like the white rose and the red rose,
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm going to say no because it's not how you cooked it.
Interesting. But let's assume it is how you cooked it, just to make it easy. You're good, Maddie. You're thinking it has to be done in the same way. But is there another issue which we haven't yet really thought of? It's Shabbos morning, and you want to put the tray straight on the blech to reheat it. And let's say it's in exactly the same way. Let's say there's no liquids, it's just solids. Any other issues?
You might be changing it because the juices might come out of it.
You're good. So we're gonna go with we're not changing anything. We're gonna be.
Could it be too hot?
We're gonna go with all. Hayden.
Too hot to eat.
It's good.
Well, it can cool down. It can cool down.
Let's say it was still
My ice cream
hot.
gets very hot when I put it in the oven.
Let's say it was still hot. We're not worrying about any of that stuff. Are there any other issues? Okay, so you're sensing that there might be another issue that we haven't yet discussed. That's going to be tonight's discussion. So there are not 4 questions because I got every single week of my wife making fun of me about the 4 questions. So tonight there are 3.
Oh man!
So perhaps you'll fill us in with question number 2.
I think we should protest. We want a 4th question, Rabbi. Okay. Question number 2. So let's say you have a slow cooker, right? And you have a dish. Let's just, for example, say it's a cholent dish.
Yum! Are we having cholent this week?
You will wait and find out.
Exciting.
So are you allowed to return the cholent pot to the slow cooker after you've served a bit from the pot?
No.
Now let's think of a real scenario. We have our Ephraim who at 12 o'clock, 11:45 is getting starving and wants his cholent. The problem is we've got 50 guests coming for lunch. So
Why is that a problem?
Because once we've served it, how are we going to be able to put it back inside its cylinder?
I know. Yes, you can, as long as someone keeps hold of it.
Oh, she's smart.
Because I had this whole thing when I was serving soup last week when I had guests, or the week before, and my friends.
You're good, Maddie. So again, I got to tell you, there's more than just one condition, but you're well on the way there. Is there anything else one would need to do to be able to serve?
Look, what if you take it out and then it goes cooler, and then you're heating it back up again?
Okay,
That's a good question.
It's a good question. We're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. A 3rd question. Maybe the first question was long, Rabbit, so maybe you'll do the 3rd question as well. Can
you take a pot from a heat source, from a gas flame or something like that, and put it on a hot plate?
But I am not in the kitchen, thank God. But I can imagine why you'd want to do that. Perhaps it's on the fire, on the heat source, and it's too hot. You just want to, now put it on the hot plate. Is there a way that you're allowed to do that?
What's inside the pot?
I don't know. Maybe it's a roast chicken that's perfectly done. Can I now put it I think that's the question.
Is it dry or
Where are you taking it from?
or liquid?
From the blech, which is on the fire, to the hot plate.
No.
No.
I
No,
don't know
you
the reason why, but no.
Well, aren't you changing the form of cooking or the form of heating?
No, I mean, so I'm going to make it easy. Let's say I had 2 hot plates. Can I take one hot plate to another one, or two fires, or 2 ovens? Let's just, 2 ovens is maybe more complicated, but let's go with the same thing. Is there a way that I can take it from this one to the same thing?
Probably yes, but I'm not sure how you do it.
Okay, I think we really baffled them tonight, because again, we've done the reheating. Rabbits and Gilla, maybe you just want to quickly fly through the 3 questions again, and then we will get into the meat and the potatoes right now. Is the not funny part.
Is it okay to put a tray of cold roast chicken on the blech to reheat it? Can you, oops, sorry about that. We are still here.
We are here. Let's keep going.
Sorry, we switched off the video. There we go. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Is there
We are.
Is there a way to do that? That was someone. Number 2, is there a way to return a hot cholent pot back to the slow cooker? It was in the slow cooker. You're taking out it back. And number 3, can I move a pot from the fire and put it on the hot plate?
Okay, so those are the 3 questions. And once we learn the principle, I think that all 3 will be able to answer. Okay, so let me explain to you the principle, and then maybe Gilla will give us some applications. This is the principle. It's forbidden on Shabbos to return any food, even if it's fully cooked, directly back into the heat source. Okay, so again, Maddie was hinting about that, and she was telling us how she could do it. But before we get into the how, this is a rabbinic decree ready from a long time ago, that once you've got your food, right? I've got my chicken, I've got my soup. I can't put it directly onto the flame, directly into the crockpot, directly into the oven, directly into the hot plate. I am not allowed to put anything directly into it, even if it's fully cooked. We're not getting into right now that it's the same way it was cooked. We're not getting into it that it's a solid. We're not getting into any of that stuff. Let's assume we're good to go, but you can't put it directly on. And the reason the rabbi said you couldn't put it directly on was because it looks like you're sort of cooking. So the rabbis already from thousands of years ago, from a long time ago, what they told us to do was, they said that you can't put it directly on. If you want to return something, even if it was Maddie's example of a pot of soup from last week, there are 4 conditions that you have to go through to be able to return it. So Maddie, you already told us one. What was the condition you told us?
Something about
You have to be holding it, right?
Yeah.
You have to hold the pot of chicken soup or the crock pot in midair. It doesn't have to. You can put it down on the surface or on a table and have your hand on it. You don't let go of it. The point is that you hold on to it. Could anyone guess any of the other conditions? They're all going to be about making sure that you want to put it back. So one of them is going to be that you hold on to it. I just gave you a hint about another one, that you have to have intention to return it. Gilla, what are the other 2?
Food has to be fully cooked, and it has to be returned to a properly covered flame or heat source. Right, so it has to have a blech on it or a hot plate.
Right? So you'd have to have like a sheet of foil or something. You can't just put it back straight onto a fire. Again, we'll go through the situations, but let's say it'd be a crock pot, you're going to want to have a sheet of silver foil inside it. Or if it's going to be the fire, you're going to want to have the blech, which is the thing of metal sheet on top of it. You don't put it directly back. Would anybody like to repeat the 4 conditions? Show me that we're wonderful teachers, or that anyone's actually awake.
You've got to hold it.
You have to hold it, or at least not put it down. Good.
You have to have the intention. Yeah.
Intention, great.
Got to be fully cooked.
Fully cooked, wow.
Who's going to take the last one?
Can't go direct onto the heat.
Amazing.
Well done.
Well done, Hayden. You did it.
Amazing. Hayden was phenomenal. Darren chipped in. You all chipped in. Has to be fully cooked. Intention to return it. Hold the entire time and return to a properly covered flame. Okay. So now let's look at some of our examples. Let's go back to our examples. Question 1 was a tray of cold roast chicken onto the blech to reheat it. So what do you say, guys? It's dry. Again, it's dry. It's the same way. What do you need to do?
You have to hold the tray, and you can't put. Well, you know, because you're transferring it, aren't you? So you're not going to be holding.
This is different, Andrew. Andrew, this is slightly different. And thank you for taking the plunge and being daring with this one. This is actually a bit different because in this case, it wasn't that it was hot and you're putting it back. This is where it was, let's say, in the fridge, and now you want to put it on. But the point is, in this case, this is a bit of a trick question. But in this case, even though you're not returning it, you're not putting it directly on. Whatever you're doing, you're not going to put directly on. You're gonna put what onto the blech or something like that. You're going to find a way to not put it directly on. So, but that's going to lead us, Gila. Maybe you want to go into question 2. You did question 2 and question 3.
So can someone remind me what the question 2 is?
Yes, Maddie's example of the chicken soup pot, which is you've taken off,
Okay, so
my example of the cholent pot.
So I'm actually going to ask you guys. Can anyone guess? Are you allowed to return the cholent pot back into a crock pot after you've served from the pot?
No.
Yes, only if you don't let go of it.
And what else?
You don't let go of it?
The intent.
You have the intent to return it.
You put foil or something. You don't put it directly.
Yeah, you've got a cover or a blech or foil inside the slow cooker cylinder. And what's the 4th one?
Got to be fully cooked.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
It's got to be fully cooked.
Okay, and the 3rd question, Everton. What's the 3rd question?
Is it okay to take a pot from the fire and put it on a hot plate?
So we didn't teach you this principle, but the principle is that to transfer from one source to another one is the same halacha, the same law as returning it. Okay, so that means if you take it from the blech or you take it from the oven, you want to put it on a hot plate, that would be the same law as though you're returning it. So what would I need to do? I need to take my cholent pot off the flame because it's going to burn. I want to put it onto the hot plate just to keep warm. What do I need to do in order to do that?
Don't put it down. Don't let go of it.
Don't let go of it. What else?
Make sure it's fully cooked.
Make sure it's cooked before you do it. What else?
The intent of moving
The intent is to put it straight on the thing, which is fine. So
And then would you have to cover the hot plate as well?
Yeah, and the hot plate would have to have some sort of covering, like silver foil or something like that. Fantastic. Okay. So other than the 4 conditions, hi Nicola, other than the 4 conditions, there are 2 other ways, even without these 4 conditions, to warm food. Okay, so let's say I take my cold roast chicken, like we're discussing with Andrew, out of the fridge. So I will do the first one, and then Gil will do the second one. The first one is you're allowed to put it near the blech. So let's say you've got, the blech, which is this metal sheet, which has got a flame underneath it. You can't put it on it, but you could put it near it. Okay, you're allowed to do that. There is a second way, and this one I'll actually send you a picture on the group afterwards to actually show you what this looks like. The second one is an interesting one.
Okay, you're allowed to place food on a pot that's on the flame, the heat source already, or even to put it down an empty pot on the fire. So anyone that's ever been in our kitchen on a Shabbat morning will have seen this. Basically, you can put like a baking tray upside down or something like that. And then you could put the food on top of that. And what it does is it makes it very clear that you're not cooking, right? It's very, very clear that this is not a normal way of cooking. No one would walk into the kitchen and think, oh my goodness, you're cooking on Shabbat, right? Right,
beautiful. Or, if you've got your chicken soup, Maddie's chicken soup, which is cooking on the thing, you can put something on top of that. So again, in summary, I think, again, we asked at the beginning, what are the potential issues that you have to be looking out for, concerned about when you want to reheat, or you want to put something back on? Let's say put something back on, or to return it. Not to reheat, to return the pot to the heat. So either you do the 4 conditions, which is to make sure it's fully cooked, to make sure you've got the intention, to hold on to it, make sure the flame is covered, or you put it near the heat source, not on it, or you put it on top of a pot which is upside down or something like that and not directly on it.
Rabbi, can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
What happens when there's a difference of opinion in the same household? So, somebody says, oh, no, you do it this way. And somebody says, no, it's my tradition to do it that way. And then there's an uncertainty.
So, Darren, could you give me an example of what you're referring to, this or something else?
No, not something else, but somebody, I'm sure if you ask 10 people how they do the transfer of their food or preparation, I bet everybody does it very slightly differently. So,
but Darren, are you talking about people who are familiar with what the law is, or people who are not familiar with what the law is?
I'm talking about from the halacha point of view.
So again, in terms of that, as I think again, I'm happy to discuss it, but I think it's fairly straightforward that as long as the place you're turning it to is is covered, has got that covering, so you're not putting it directly on, and you take it straight from one to the other. I don't think that there are. I haven't seen other opinions on that.
Can I also just say something? And I'm not sure if this is the correct. If I'm not sure if I'm getting the question correctly. But any of these things that we've said are perfectly permissible, right? So, for example, you could do it upside down on that tray. You could put it on top of a pot. You could put it next to a heat source, right? All of those are perfectly permissible. And at that point, it's just a question of preference, right? What do you think would be better for the food? Whatever you want, right? So I'm not sure if that's answering the question at all, but any of these are equally halachically permissible.
There's various options, if you like,
Yes, and then it's just a question of preference, like what is the way that you prefer to do it?
Nicely said. Yeah. Again, we've got our situation right now is we want to be able to keep my cholent hot after my kid wants it for the guests. So either I'm going to use the 4 conditions. I'm going to hold on to it and make sure it's cooked and not put it down and have intention and put it back, or I'm going to be able to put it onto a pot that's in something else. Or I'm going to be able to just transfer it onto something else that's already covered.
And a bit of relationship advice: if it's all perfect halachically acceptable, let the person who's the better cook make the choice.
I'll make the choice.
And you know how you know who the better cook is? Because that person gets to make supper for the next 3 days.
Amy.
That it? 3 days?
Yeah, indeed, maybe even more than that. Okay, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear if this resonated with you. And if you'd like to discuss it further, you can get in touch with me. You can find me on Instagram at It's Gila Ross, or you can WhatsApp me. My number is in the show notes, and we can set up a time to discuss this further. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Have a wonderful day, and please take a moment to rate, review, subscribe, and share this podcast to anyone else who would benefit from it.